on Waypoint, and then YouTube channel.
Gotcha.
You know, and you know, we're gonna start doing some really aggressive promotion here for the show.
Cool.
Early on, it really just started as something I wanted to do and hang out and have fun. And we used to be in Coral Springs, so
Gotcha.
the funny thing is, like, people would drive out to Coral Springs, and it's like a haul.
Yeah.
Right. And I always like to say it's my Sleepy Hollow out there. And well, people wanted to get their money's worth every time they came to see me because I drove all the way out here. Dennis is going to talk to me, right? So they were like, "Oh yeah," and full on conversations. But the cool thing is I was like, you know what? I'm going to start recording some of this because it was like, you know, we work with some cool people.
Yeah,
and, you know, we have some good conversations.
No, definitely cool.
Yeah. So we wanted to wrap it up real nice and pretty and do it that way. Are we good to go? We're good. Oh. All right, so we're live currently on the Book of Faces.
Live and nationwide.
Yep. And so
and I'm back.
And
nationwide.
2022. This is our first podcast of the new year.
Wow,
right?
numero uno.
Kicking it off in style. I want to welcome you gentlemen to the Connected by Water podcast, presented by or powered by Joey Cardi Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and fueled by our good friends at Papa's Pilar, who remind us all to never be a spectator, and we're going to try to make Papa proud today.
Amen.
But I think we already have, because, Carl, you brought in the heavy hitter today.
The heavy
right?
hitter.
Rob Fordyce. Like, listen, thank you, first of all, for coming in.
Oh, pleasure to be
like,
here.
It really is an honor. It's an honor to always have you too, Carl. It's an honor to call you friend, really. That's the flat truth of it.
Fun to be here.
But... you know, I was like, Rob's going to come in, and I'm going to be like, you know, the guys, who knows, I don't know if you're tired of people just like whipping off your resume because it's like so extensive. And like, I was reading through this, and this is our first time meeting, which I love meeting people for the first time on the show, right? Because it's really a cool thing for me. But like, I was like, you know, let me just look at some key points on Rob and do some background research, and it was just jaw dropping, like just the accomplishments. Like, I knew the accomplishments, but like until you like really go through and read them all, like, it's impressive, dude.
The tarpon
like,
tournaments,
big time.
Come on.
You know,
yeah,
I mean, it always feels weird when people talk about me like that because you know what? I'm just a fisherman. I'm just a fisherman that's very passionate about
dude,
it. You know?
It's phenomenal. I mean, it's like, you know, 130 podiums and the only person to win all four, and it's like, it's insane. Like, and so,
well, thank you.
Yeah, I commend you on your life's work. Like, so far,
I can tell you it's exhausting.
I bet.
It's been an exhausting career, but it's a career that I wouldn't change.
Right.
You know, for anything.
Yeah.
And I still live for it today. I still fish the tournaments, and I wake up every day when I go fishing with clients practicing for the tournaments. Mm-hmm. Every day's a challenge.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's kind of been the leading thing to my success is I don't look at a day of fishing. When me and Carl are just fun fishing, it's fun to be with a buddy, and there's no pressure involved in all that. But with tarpon and certain species of fish and certain things that I've tried to accomplish, you know, throughout 34-year career or whatever, there's always a challenge at the beginning of the day for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to prove myself to anybody else. It's to prove myself to me.
That's good.
That I can still do it, and that I'm getting better at it each time I do it.
You know, it's funny you say that, because we always try to see, to me, fishing's an art, right? It's a sport.
It is.
But it's an art. It really is.
Absolutely.
And especially for a guy like you with the fly fishing, it is especially an art. You know, I'm always drawing parallels to art and fishing.
Yeah.
You know, because I see the two collide all the time. And I always say that too about when people ask me, like, oh, you know, who are you painting against, or who are you trying to compete against, or anything like that? And I'm like, well, you know what? I used to be like that when I was younger, but now I just try to make the next painting better than my last one, and I say I compete against myself.
Right.
Because that's the only thing I can control. I can't control what anyone else is doing, nor should I let that affect my life.
Sure.
You know, but if I just try to compete against myself and make the last one better than the next one better than the last one, then that's really all I can do.
And what you just said is a prime example of kind of a thing that I've lived by, and it's in a way a little bit of an illness that you're never satisfied with what you've done.
Yeah, right.
So
That's
there's this never-ending goal to reach a new one. you set a bar and you reach it and then you reset it.
Mhm.
And you know in the back of your mind that you're never going to be satisfied with it.
That's why you
Regardless
keep going,
of what
that's why
you
you
do.
keep going the next day.
Exactly.
You didn't catch anything today? We got to go tomorrow.
Yeah, we're
gonna
going
go
tomorrow and we're going to try harder.
We're gonna,
you know?
we got to pull out all the stops, and I mean I think that's any mentality when you want to succeed.
I think it's any mentality that anybody who's successful, whether you're a CEO of a
Right.
bank or some giant company
Yeah.
or a tennis player or an NFL quarterback, it doesn't matter. It's all the same mindset, that you're never satisfied with where you're at.
Yeah. I mean, we end every episode with a couple of different sayings, and one of them is your ego is not your amigo.
Right.
And I think that if
For
you
sure.
kind of keep that in perspective, that really helps you hone it all in. I mean, there's time and time again, people will walk into this room and be like, "Oh man, look at the art," and I don't mean to sound any
Well, I
certain
kind of
way by
said that
saying
when I
that.
walked in. I'm just saying it's an incredible art.
It is.
It's amazing.
I'm not satisfied with anything on the
Well,
wall.
it's
You know
pretty
what I mean?
impressive.
So it's
Yeah.
tough to. There's always that fine line of like, hey, what am I? And that's where the whole maybe the I don't want to call it the humble thing, but it's more of the shy thing about it, where it's like, well, yeah, but that could have been done a little. You'd be overly critical, and
Yeah.
maybe that's the sign of
And sometimes you're the only one that
Maybe that's
sees
a
that.
problem.
Yeah, I was
I don't
going to
know.
say,
You know,
you're your
and it's-
worst own critic.
Yeah.
You know?
When I tie up at the dock at the end of the day and it's sitting there going, man, I should have done this, I should have done that, but you can't dwell on it. You got to look at the next
You-
day and say, okay, here's our
Use
plan
that
for
as
tomorrow.
fuel
Yeah,
to
it's-
fire yourself up
tomorrow.
Yeah.
for the next day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We got to adjust.
yeah,
And so it's like watching game films, and I talk about that all the time with my guys. Like, okay, here's what we did today. Here's how we got to do it better. And just, we talked about some stuff last night, just about some rigging techniques,
Mhm.
Right.
minute little detail stuff, so that we're ready for the IGFA light tackle tournament.
right.
Rob fishes with me on the boat, Bo Jennings, and
Bo's going to be with you.
and Chris
Nice.
Sanchez. And we have Wade Richardson come back. And anyway, we have 4 guys in the cockpit. We have 2 great anglers who know how to deal with light tackle. And, but we're always looking for that little thing. What's next that we can do to be better, more efficient? And it's that part of that success thing that, you every day you come in and you go, man, we got to do better.
Yeah.
You got to find a way to do better, to keep up with Art Sapp
Right.
and to keep up with Ray Rocher and to keep up with Skip Dana, or
Yeah.
hopefully do better.
For sure.
Because, these guys are unbelievable. They're good, and
Especially in a tournament like that,
Yeah, man,
in the
these guys
IGFA
are-
light tackle,
you know.
because you're only getting guys that are
full on.
full on serious and
That's-
really
yeah,
really
it's-
know what they're doing
Which
in that
which
show.
which jacks you up, because now you're like,
Yeah.
man, I'm competing against
You know what?
this.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't want to get in a tournament with a bunch of weekend warriors that
Right.
don't. You want, because it doesn't mean anything if you win it.
Mhm.
You know, you want to compete against the best because it brings the best out of you.
Yeah, no, that's the truth. 'Cause you're exactly. What's the point if you can't push yourself as hard as you can push yourself
Right.
to prove to yourself that
Right.
you've done it?
Yep.
Then at the end of the day, you're just
Yeah.
stealing candy from a baby sometimes. I guess for
Right.
lack
Yeah.
of a better term. I
Yeah,
guess.
well, it's the challenge is a lesser challenge, and
Yeah.
that's not so motivating.
No,
No, it's
I
not.
don't get fired up about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, well, so I don't know. Yes.
I wanted to spend at least a couple of minutes today to just because I think for posterity we should bring it up that we lost Billy Knowles.
I was actually,
Yeah,
I
so-
wanted
So
to,
Billy
yeah.
was one of my dearest friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he was.
No,
oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh wow, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
I bet.
I know. We all know who he is, but
I
I
met
didn't realize
Billy.
you guys were close.
I'm glad you brought that up
And
because Billy.
and Billy is, as we should make a toast, because he was inducted at, or given, the Tommy Gifford IGFA Tommy Gifford Legendary Captain and Crew Award, and well deserved. And I thought about that today, and I said, we got to talk about Billy, because he got to ride along. I was running a boat, and he came and rode along, and I got to talk with him. I'm running one of the boats that he ran as big, because a lot of people don't know that he ran big boats too,
No, the guy was an all-around,
all around.
exceptional fisherman.
And a boatman,
Yeah.
like a full-on boatman. I mean, he knew boats inside out and everything. And I just wanted to get that in, because I know Rob and Billy were very, very close.
Mhm.
And we got the call yesterday, and it was it put a damper on our day in a way. And we talked about everything, but we kept going on. Like, hey man,
let's
Billy
catch another sailfish for Billy.
Billy,
you know?
Billy
Right.
fished up to he started fishing his life, and he ended his life fishing.
Yeah.
Right? He
Yeah.
he fished right to the end, and God bless him. And
that's what he wanted to do.
yeah.
He told me that about 10 years ago. I go, Billy, when you gonna, call it a day?
Mhm.
He goes, son, when I'm in the box.
Yeah. There you go.
He called everybody son.
Yeah.
And I met Billy when I was 10 years old. and I was extremely heavily engaged in fishing at 10 years old and starting to fly fish at that time. And I went with Al Pfluger and my dad to the Lorelei,
Mm-hmm.
and we were eating breakfast, and I see this guy tan. I mean, this guy, I'd never seen a tan like this, cut off blue jeans
Mm-hmm.
and like a t-shirt. And you could just tell this guy was
He was a guide.
a weathered guide.
He was a guide.
You know?
Salt in his veins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I looked at this guy like a hero. I didn't know him.
Mm-hmm.
Al introduced me to him, and I met him. And to make a long story short, Billy and I kept bumping into each other before I was guiding. But when I did started guiding, Billy saw how I was on the water and how I was respectful of veteran guides. And it didn't take long that he took me under his wing, and we became very close 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one that got to be a Lorelei guide. It's a very close-knit family.
Sure.
It's limited to a certain number of guides of 14.
Mm-hmm.
And if you call yourself a Lorelei guide, in the Keys, there's so much legendary history there, legendary guides that went out of there. It means something. I mean, you feel like you're part of the flats fishing family. And Billy, there's a spot came open, and he called me about 15 years ago and said, "Hey, you want to put in here?"
Mm-hmm.
And just that phone call in itself meant so much to me, and I've been a Lorelei guide ever since. And it's just, I see Billy every day, and we eat breakfast together, and he's gonna be missed
Yeah,
Wow.
man.
a lot. That guy was a mentor to many.
So to many.
He was loved by the whole Keys.
It's really just in full disclosure, and even bringing up Billy, I didn't realize you guys were that close. I didn't really plan on that. And to be honest with you, this episode wasn't even really planned. I was like, I talked to the guys, and I'm like, I'm back, and I'm ready to go. I just sat up in a house in New Jersey for 12 days. And I'm just like, towards the end, I was climbing the walls.
At the wrong time of year.
Yeah, and I get back here, and I'm like, no, I want to get a podcast going here. I don't want to wait, And
Sure.
so I called up Carl, and I was like, he's like, yeah, and he's Rob's here too. Let's get it going. And then, everyone, the big news is obviously that Billy had passed, and
Right.
to have you in the room now, that's kind of a
Well, thank you for bringing
goosebump
it
kind
up.
of dynamic
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me. So
Thank you.
It's
Yeah.
The man deserves some recognition,
Yeah.
and like Carl said, that guy, if you sat down and just had a few eggs with him in the morning eating breakfast, the stories you would hear
yeah,
from the old days,
Mhm.
going to Bimini. He was one of the guys that went to Bimini with the big boats and sight fished giant tunas.
mm-hmm.
I mean, he was in that whole plethora of badass stuff,
Yeah.
to do.
Ran a couple Merritt boats.
Yep.
So he had a connection here to Pompano
Mhm.
and the Merritt family, and ran a 37 and ran the 42, which is now called Picaflor, that we rebuilt, and we're campaigning that thing around. And special thing, and I wrote a story about the boat for Angler's Journal, and one of the first guys I called was Billy to talk to him about the boat and get his feelings on the boat. And he's like, "Man, that boat raised sailfish in a bathtub."
Mhm.
He had all these sayings and talked about things, and I don't know. Yes, he was always fun to be around. Always
Yeah.
fun.
And we talk all the time on the show about just the history and the legendary legacy of Merritt boats and Pompano Beach and,
Yeah.
and the whole thing like that. So
And our IGFA stuff, very important.
Yep.
And the fact that we got to honor Billy as a on that committee, and we go through a whole process. It's not just hey, we're gonna put that guy in. There's a process, and it takes a lot.
Mhm.
We have a committee of 11 guys that work hard to find out who's there. And Billy was a no-brainer. When it came up and ran right in. And I just remember the night we inducted him. The night before, he was having a private dinner at a deal, and I walked in, and he's with his family, and RT Trossett was getting in that year, and they both had some things, and they were just so humble and so excited to be recognized by their peers as the top in their game. and walked in and shook Billy's hand. I mean, I'm so glad that that you're getting this. And he said, "Son, I can't imagine in my life that IGFA recognized me." And he was just so happy, and his family was so proud of him. It was such a big thing, and to me, that made the whole deal, what we do with Legendary Captain and Crew, worthwhile. I mean,
It's a big
Yeah.
deal.
It's a big deal.
No,
It's
it's
a
a
big
huge
deal.
deal, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier in tournaments. You don't want to fish against you want
Yeah.
to fish against the best.
The best, yeah.
And if you get inducted to anything IGFA,
Yeah.
you got inducted by the best.
Sure. Absolutely.
The people that make those votes, and they understand fishing, they understand traditions, they understand the history of fishing,
Mhm.
and that's not something you just flip a coin and go, oh yeah, let's just let that guy in.
Oh yeah, they don't hand those out like Tic Tacs.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's in my opinion the highest honor a fishing captain could ever have.
The highest, completely. And
By far, by more than winning any other tournament
No
or
question.
anything. That's the highest honor.
I attended my first one this year. And I had been to IGFA banquets before and other IGFA events, and they're all great. But that's on a different level.
Yeah.
And I went with Art.
It is.
Art and I went together.
Yeah.
Right. And, I said, Art, we're going to just sit at the table. Jack extended us an invitation, thankful that he did. And so we went there and we were just in awe, especially with the Ansel Saunders story and,
Yeah.
and the whole
Yep.
the Martin Luther King aspect of it
Yep,
and
yep.
the Queen of England stuff that he
Yep.
went through. We talked about that on the show before, and it's just so impressive. And just the room that you're in,
You look around and see
every
who's there.
single seat is just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like every single
There's-
seat, you're
there's
like,
a bunch
wow,
of-
best of the best in the world in
There's
that
some
room.
badass people
There's
Yeah.
at
really-
an IGFA
And that
event.
to me was one of the most
Yeah.
impressive things. I'm like, man, you're just that room staring at you being honored is enough
No
Yeah.
doubt.
to just
yeah.
dictate
Yeah.
the importance of that.
This is Skip Smith's brainchild.
Mm-hmm.
Make
Sure
no
is.
mistake about it. And I'm lucky enough to vice chair the thing, and we have an incredible committee. But like that night, you came and you get to you get a different sense of what IGFA is all about. So many people don't really know, but the Legendary Captain and Crew is it's a party.
Mm-hmm.
It's an awful lot of fun. You see folks that you haven't seen in years. It's folks getting together that you've seen in other places around the world, and you get to honor guys that you looked up to. Certainly for me,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guys that are on our committee. I mean, they were I wasn't really into baseball and football. I mean, I was into the fishing part of it, and I mean, holy crow, man! I mean, these are the guys that I looked up to. So, I mean, I want to be as good as they are.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why we
Yeah.
started this show. I told you this before. Like, there's all these shows that they try to glorify LA and Hollywood and everything. I'm like, I'm going to make a show to bring on the people that are studs and stars to me.
Amen.
Yeah, and this is
Amen.
why we started Connected by
well,
Water.
good for you.
Yeah,
it's
and
great.
that's why I'm so happy you're here today.
Yeah.
This is great.
thank you.
Fantastic.
He's caught a few tarpon in
A
his
little
day.
bit, right?
And I keep looking at this painting of these tarpon.
I
the
know.
Dock
thing,
Master,
It's
yeah.
a damn good
And,
one too.
Thanks.
And he's we've had a lot of fun together, Rob and I. We fished the Kingfish circuit for a while together. We've done a lot of things, and we've been friends a long time. Thank you, Carlene. First class as always.
Oh,
Papa's
100%.
Best bartender in the
And
planet.
so Fordyce and I go back a long ways, and
Yep.
we've had a lot of fun. We've caught a lot of fish together. Not so much today. We caught one kingfish, but anyway, that's what happens. It's fishing, right? So we're gonna go back out
That
tomorrow
is
and just
fishing.
figure out how to do it. And we're here to make a TV show for that Rob does called the
Mhm.
Sea Hunter TV. And
And you're in,
We
was
still
it
have fun.
6 seasons now?
This is season 7.
Season
We're filming
7.
right
You've
now.
done 6,
Yeah,
and
we've
now
done
you're
6.
filming 7,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
he's finally bringing in the big guns now.
What a great
Having
show
a
it
good
is,
show.
too.
Yeah. I finally got Carl. I finally got Carl narrowed down to
Just
it.
kidding.
It's,
Just kidding.
you got to go through his
Yeah.
agent and,
Right,
and everything
right.
else to get him on board.
Right. Well, it took me 100 episodes to get you, so hey.
I'm not
Yeah.
here often, so that's what happens.
You live so
No.
far away.
Yeah, I live so far away.
Yeah, right?
No, we just everybody's busy and everything. But Rob does a great job with the TV show. And the other thing, Rob's a great teacher too. I think, like we go back and forth and talk about different things, and
Mhm.
obviously we hang out. We talk a lot about all kinds of stuff. But when it comes to fishing, Rob really brings it down to brass tacks, man. I mean, he gets right down to the nitty gritty, and that's part of that success thing we talked about.
Mhm.
And that's why I always love fishing with my buddy.
Yeah.
You, go ahead.
Go
No, go ahead.
I think if you looked at any decent fisherman, it's all about details.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have their own set of details.
There's a big saying: the art is in the details.
But they're very detail oriented, and it's just a plethora of little things.
Mm-hmm.
I've never considered. You know, people talk about fishing being lucky. You know, you didn't have any luck today. You know, you hear that all the time. I think you make your own luck.
Amen.
Oh, that's what merely in preparation
You
meets
totally-
opportunity. That's
you-
what they say,
You
right?
totally make your own luck
Yeah.
in fishing,
No doubt.
and it becomes from perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from every knot is perfect. It become all the just 5% things add
Mhm.
up to a big thing
Yeah.
that ends up being success.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I had a little league coach tell me, his saying was, "Do the little things right, and the big things will fall in place."
Mhm.
Yeah.
In other words, learn ground the ball,
Right.
catch the fly, whatever. But you apply that to anything in life,
Right.
and it's like it totally makes sense. And whether we're building a boat or redoing a boat or rig and tackle, doing everything, if we do all this right, man, the big picture fills in.
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit, we got something good here.
Yeah.
It's,
As you perfect your craft, and you become better and better and better as you get older and older and older, if you stay consistent, that's the key. Right.
if you get older.
Right. Well, that's the other key. Right. I think you find that, if you want to draw a comparison to maybe professional sports where the difference in a game can be just so finite, the game of inches, they always say,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think you can find that in life too.
Absolutely.
Or any craft that you have, whether it be fishing or art, there's a big difference between good and bad. Huge gap, right? But there's only, I think, a finite difference between good and great.
Amen.
Yeah.
But
That's right.
that glue, I think, is consistency in it of just perfecting those little things, like you're saying.
And never being satisfied with what you know.
Yeah.
You never wake up and go, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
I can honestly say I've never woken up any day fishing and go, I own this.
Mhm.
'Cause,
Never.
I've
Every
never.
day. Every day.
And
is
I
different.
think that driving force every day to want to learn and get better at what you do, even though you already know how to do it,
Mhm.
you want to keep just turning the key a little bit
Yeah, and
up,
I
up
think
a notch.
I think that defines your ego's your amigo right there. Because if you rest on your laurels like that, then
no
you're
one's
done.
ever had 2 days fishing that were exactly the same. Ever.
Right.
Ever. So if you sit there and think, man, I got this figured out, I got this wired, man, it'll turn you on your ass, and you're sitting in a bucket in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And and you got to keep that in mind. And it comes, and so you can't get, like mad about it. I used to, I was younger, we'd lose a fish, I'd get so mad at myself or mad at whatever, and then you learn, hey, man, that's not the attitude. The attitude is, all right, what are we going to learn, and how are we going to get better, and do
Right.
it. We're going to go catch another one.
Use
And
that
we're gonna-
failure as fuel.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
and that was a tough lesson to learn. Luckily, I learned it young, and I put this, a positive attitude gets you quicker to the right place than a negative attitude,
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
and that I think for me, and I know for you, same things. Like, all right, we lost that one, let's go. We've talked about fishing tarpons and stuff in the tournaments, and you've like, man, we had so many shots today, you wouldn't believe it, and he's like, but tomorrow here we go, we gotta roll, and same thing with us. All right, we missed that one, but all right, guys, here's what we're gonna do.
The interesting thing that I think about guides or fishing captains
Mm-hmm.
in general, you have to the anglers, when you're guiding anglers, so you're trying to fish through your angler.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the rod. You're trying to lead this guy to a successful day of fishing, whether it's in a tournament or not, just a regular day of fishing. But in a tournament scene especially, you're kind of fishing through them
Mm-hmm.
with the commands that you're giving the angler. And I think a lot of captains and guides fall short a little bit by getting upset when an angler makes a mistake. The angler already has pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
He doesn't do this every day like
Wh-
captains and guides do.
Whether he's on the bow of the skiff or he's in
Or
the cockpit
in
of
the
a
cockpit,
boat.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter the
either way.
scenario.
Mm-hmm.
The angler already has pressure on himself. He wants to succeed. He wants to catch a fish, but at the same time, he doesn't want to screw up and upset you.
Yeah.
And there's a real fine line that a guide or a captain. I refer to skiff
Sure.
captains as
Yep.
guides, but
Yep.
everybody's a captain.
Mm-hmm.
there's a way to communicate that you're giving directive, positive reinforcement while the angler is doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Along with patience as well.
Oh, you have a huge
Giant
deal
factor.
is you have to have patience.
Giant factor.
If you don't, it doesn't work.
Giant factor.
But there's a way to communicate with an angler that you're consistently giving positive reinforcement that he's doing the right thing, and if he's not, you're encouraging him in a positive way how to do it correctly. And that translates into success. A lot of captains and guides, I think, get excited themselves to a point where it puts more pressure on an angler.
It tense them up.
It totally, that guy feels the pressure building, and every word that comes out, it's getting more haste involved, and there becomes a point where the angler's so rattled by what he's hearing that he's going to screw up.
Yeah.
So there's a way, and I don't know how you would teach that, but I think you have that or you don't. All I can say to young guides and captains out there is, don't be hard on your angler. Teach, be positive, and be encouraging, and make sure that by the end of the day, the angler comes out of that day being a better angler.
That's such great advice.
I think on the big boats too, like the one little tool that we do, and they bust my chops about it, but Bart Garnsey and Danny Bear from Pompano here, Captain Danny Bear was a great fisherman here out of Pompano Hillsborough Inlet. Tuna fishing, he would be in the tower, and he was so high in the tower, they had a microphone to talk to the cockpit. Bart took that and fishing with Stuart Gamble and had a microphone with speakers in the cockpit so that the crew could hear, okay, here he comes, he's coming on, because they were bait and
so
switch
he didn't
fishing.
have to yell.
So obviously I'm a student of that school of thought with Bark and Peter B and everybody, and I would be up on the bridge and be windy, and okay, here he comes, and you're yelling. That immediately brings everybody's angst up, like holy shit, he's yelling, what the hell's going on? And so
it's almost like spikes come out.
It's really bad.
Right. Yeah.
So
sure.
I adapted the microphone deal with speakers down there, and he said, I go, okay, all right, here he comes. He's coming on the left shore. He comes. He's off the teaser. Here he comes. You're talking, not yelling, and everything's smooth. And through the fight, you're able to tell you, okay, mate, here comes. You'll see something, like, you'll see a safety line to a rod or something. Hey, mates, well, clear that line. You're going to trip over that thing. Let's get ready. You can, kind of like, you could broadcast the whole situation and see things that they can't see. But you're talking in a tone that's normal, and you don't get that, like you're talking about that angst up and going, everybody's freaking out. You're just talking nice and regular. I never forget, like, I had a guy, Carlos Pellis from Nicaragua, has a boat called the Rum, something Rum.
The Rum Line?
Yeah, Rum Runner. And Carlos, great anglers, fished all over the place. Anyway, he came and fished with us in Madeira, and it was the first time he'd fished in a chair. And, we raise the fish, and we'll get him up there, and we hook the fish, and I'm talking through the whole thing. At the end, he still says, this is the coolest captain I've ever fished with. He doesn't raise because I didn't get upset, and I didn't raise. And he like, that resonated with him. He's like, man, he was scared to get in the chair. He had never fished in the chair before. And he was totally intimidated by that. And we obviously we did the chair lesson, how to, it's a third class lever. Here's how we're going to do this. I did the Peter B chair lesson, and he, got that. And then by not yelling, and he just changed his, he was totally calm and everything was good. And he said, I never, and he told us that after.
Right.
So I'd
Right.
never fished the chair before. And I'm like, oh man, he goes, man, I was scared to death. Anyway, we caught this nice big blue marlin, and he drank a rum, smoked a cigar, and took a nap.
I think the important thing too is when you're someone in his position with heavy hitters, and you want to do your best, and I think that's important that you feel that too when a guy of a high level is cool and calm. Then
for sure,
people will respond to that even more because that's the whole thing. But if the guy that's on that level is not cool and calm, then you're talking double spikes.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
It gets really hard.
Oh, thank you, my dear.
You can do a little splash in there. Thank you.
So just so you know, I just want to mention, since Carlene rolled over here, I hope you had a good Happy New Year, Carlene. And we talked about it a little bit before we started going live. She's about 5 months into our new baby,
Second mamahood.
right? I'm hoping the middle name is connected, but
No, I know. I already
Yeah.
know.
Definitely
Right.
not connected by water.
no. So, but I just wanted to say thanks, Carlene.
Yes, always the best drink in town.
Yep. You bring up Lorelei.
Yes.
And, as a child of Broward County, I've often would go down to the Keys, but never lived there, right? So Conch would not be in my, name. But quite familiar with Lorelei, as many people are. Going down there years and years and years and years. Lorelei, you eat there, you love it. Everyone has a good time.
Yep.
Fished out of there.
Great sunsets.
Great sunsets, the whole 9 yards. Occasional manatee.
Full on
all
Keys
that, right?
experience.
Yeah, full on Keys experience. Right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I started fishing with my good friend Randy Tao out of there. Randy likes to tell stories, and
Sure.
did I really understand the importance, like you're saying? So when you said that about Lorelei, I'm like, yep, I heard that, from Randy and the whole 9 yards. But one thing I am surprised about is that you're not of that group sooner. You said just 15 years ago, because you're the Met Master Angler at the age of 17?
Yeah.
I read that earlier today.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
So can I back up a second?
Yeah.
We talked about this last night, and I said, somebody needs to bring back a situation like the Met. I remember the Met, right? And I remember going to the Miami Beach Rod and Reel Club and seeing the on the wall the Met winners and the categories and the line classes and the species classes. And I mean, you walked in there, man. I'm talking about it, I'm getting goosebumps because you walked in there and you went, wow.
Yeah.
You get your button. You get your button for this and that and everything, and I'm like, what an achievement, right? Like, so you could pick one thing and go, man, I'm going to go after that, and then build on it, and that disappeared, and it was an incredible thing in angling, right? To have that recognition, but to have that goal to go after, and we were talking about, we're like, man, we need to bring that back, because it gives you something to fish for, but it got a lot of kids into it because it gives them a goal. It's
Right.
like, hey, I'm not going to be the starting
Thank
quarterback. I'm not going to get to throw touchdowns. I'm not going to get to make tackles. I'm not going to get to score goals. Kick soccer ball. But boy, I could go catch that fish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a driver, right?
It's a driver, and it gets, for me as a kid, it got me excited. It was a challenge, and it took my angling ability from moderate to extreme, because to be able to win the Met Master Angler, you have to catch fish on all kinds of tackles. So you have to learn how to fly fish. You have to learn
plug.
you have to throw out a bait caster. You have to learn how to rig artificial, and not just throwing a bait out there hoping you get a bite on something.
There was technique criteria.
There was
and tackle criteria, right?
Yeah, it was all IGFA,
right?
Related. So fishing the Met at a young age is what really opened my eyes to the IGFA, because every rule you read in the Met would always end with IGFA regulations.
Right.
Every sentence, IGFA regulations for every step of tackle category. And it made me understand that the IGFA really is the parent of fishing.
It's a gold standard. Absolutely.
Well, it's the Bible, and it's the rule book, right? I mean,
every sport has rules.
Ethical angling is a very important thing. We talked about another thing we talk about all the time is all these tournaments that have what I call jungle rules, but where mates can hook fish and stuff.
Right.
And I think that's totally going the wrong way.
The hook and hand and all
Yeah,
that.
the hook and hand, man.
Yeah.
It's totally wrong. I mean, I get it. But I don't want anything to do with it. I don't think that's the right way to go. I think
it's a fun fish tournament.
The guy, right? If you want to go fish for fun, we always want you to go fish for fun. But in a competition situation, how is someone who is working 5 days a week, and they're at their corporate office, and then they get to fly down and be on their boat, and they get to fish 3 days, and they got to compete against 5 mates that are fishing every single day, every tournament up and down the coast. They got no chance. So they're going like, fuck this.
Yep.
Sorry. Anyway,
That's
you
all
know,
right. We
it's
live in
just-
the free state of Florida. It's cool.
we do live in the free state of Florida. Thank you, Governor DeSantis.
Watch your fucking mouth.
Right, exactly. and I just look at that whole thing, and it does bother me. And I honestly, I've lost I don't care to participate in those kind of tournaments because it goes against what's really supposed to happen. You have a captain, you got mates,
Right.
and then you have anglers.
Yeah.
Let the anglers do the deal. Mates shouldn't be anglers. And I know there's a lot of
historically,
mates that are going to
yeah.
be all pissed off at me because I say it. But you know what? Then you write yourself the check, okay,
Yeah.
for your pay, because that guy's paying you, for the day anyway. And and these guys, I think they've gotten a little bit out of control on their stance and how things work. And anyway, that's kind of my.
That's all right, though, because listen, one thing that you and I always talk about is the importance of spotlighting legends. And this is one
Yep.
of the reasons why.
Yep.
Right? Because I think, especially in our sport that has so much tradition and lineage involved.
Yep.
Yep.
Right? Because that's where it all starts from.
It does.
When you get guys that come in that maybe don't start that way and they just interject in a different way, then they might interject that influence of whatever you want to call it. I don't even want to give it a name, but you know what it is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's got to be a respect for the lineage of how it all evolved and how it all got there. This is why the IGFA is such an important organization,
Absolutely.
because it
Right.
actually it presents that, it lays it out for everybody. The things that you're saying, the way we architect this show is the same way, because yes, we're all about community, and that's what Connected by Water means.
Right.
Right.
100%.
But the people that we try to bring on the show are of a level to that they're influential within that community, and they are presenting themselves as the standard within that community, and that's
Right.
why we think it's so important. So I agree with you 100% when you say that.
I mean, I understand that, the mates and all, but the guy, and I always say this, the guy writing the check should be winding in the fish. I mean, you're getting paid to be on his boat.
Mhm.
Hey, man, that's a blessing, right?
You know,
It's
but
like-
I
No, it's a
think-
job.
You know what I mean? It's a job.
Yeah.
You get paid, and you're getting to do something you love.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if we're in our industry, we love it, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I love it, and
I deal
think
with that too,
every-
doing designs for other people, and it's at the end of the day, if they say change it, hey man,
every day I get
gotta
to
change
go
it.
run the boat, and I get to go fishing and do what I love, and wow, man, I'm getting paid for this. Hey, what do you want to do? How can we?
Yeah.
Like, what
Right.
can I do for you?
Right.
Because you're letting me do this. I'm cool with that.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, and I think a lot of young mates, in particularly, and have lost the purpose of this deal,
Yeah.
and they've lost perspective on how it works.
Yeah.
It's going this way, like they think they run the show, right?
No,
I mean,
no, you're right.
you know,
You're right.
and they don't run the show. I hate
No.
to tell them that's not, but anyway.
So, a great example of what we're talking about here. The keys. There's 4 big fly tarpon tournaments, and there's a couple fly bonefish tournaments that go back over 50 years.
Yeah, the golden fly, right? 50. Yeah.
Yeah, and guides. If you have guided within a year of the tournament, you cannot fish as an angler.
Fair enough.
If you've gotten paid to fish,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot fish
Yeah.
as an angler.
The Great Sailfish tournaments were the same way.
Exactly.
The Gold Cup, the
So-
Spurley Tackle. Now they're not.
Now it's a money grab.
Let's just say, and they're still that way.
Mhm.
That's never changed. If I was to take another guide in the Gold Cup, the biggest tarpon tournament in the world, the most prestigious, and win it, I would not feel
Can I,
like I was in a fair.
I have to interrupt this. This is very important. Mike Myatt from Papa's Pilar,
Oh,
calling in live. Hello? We are.
We're
Yeah, we're-
live.
We're online.
Well, I just want to tell all you guys,
And you're live now also.
Yeah.
am I?
You are live.
Yeah.
you're on the show, Mike.
There's a good FaceTime because I have like 8 necks and only 8 chins, 1 neck. I have more chins than a Chinese phone book. Yeah, that's it. But just want to tell you guys, I've been watching it and love you guys. I mean, thanks for spreading the Papa's love, but moreover than that, thanks for just being like friends.
Amen,
I mean,
buddy.
across everything we do, whenever we do it, we're always there for one another. And, the tribute to Billy tonight Robbie, man, that was awesome. I mean,
Thank you, brother.
son. Who's going to call me son again?
Really?
Except my dad. But I'm feeding him rat poisoning, so that won't be very long. So.
Only Maya.
Only Maya would come up with something like that.
But, I just want to tell you guys, I love you so much. Denny, you're the best. I mean, this podcast that you're doing has only benefited us and the entire fishing community, because you have some studs on there. And tonight you get them big.
Got
and, I wish you guys were going up the street to have the tuna pizza.
So does Carlene, by the way. But we're going to do that when Carlene has her baby. We're going to take her out and celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Carl, do the Anderson. You take one pizza, put it on top of the other one, and call it like a fajita. Yeah.
Tuna pizza fajita from Cafe Max. Can't beat it.
Hey, Mike, you know what this
anyway,
episode
love
is?
you guys. Connected by Water, Sea Hunter TV, Captain Carl, my amigo. Love all you bros. You guys have a great night.
Love
Thanks,
you too, Mike.
brother.
Good night,
Thanks.
Mike.
Thanks, brother. Later.
Mike's the man.
Yeah, he is. Anyway, so I was just saying, if I was to fish, if they allowed it, and I was to fish another guide and win that tournament against a bunch of other anglers that are not professional fishermen, I would not feel near as accomplished as a guide.
Right.
I mean, there's a real pride in taking a guy who's not a pro, who doesn't do this every day, and guiding him to a successful
He
tournament.
fishes 20 days a year.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, you fish that. Yeah.
And that's just rewarding, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's taking a crew of 5 professional mates, an owner, and paying it this giant entry fee in a sailfish tournament.
And the mates catch the fish.
And the mates, these guys that do this every day, they're much faster at doing everything.
Yeah, everything.
Because they do it every day. And they're fishing in half the fleet are guys that do it 10 days a year or 20 days a year or 30 days a year. It's kind of bullshit.
No, I couldn't agree more.
It's kind of bullshit.
People will do that to me. They'll send me.
You're stacking your team.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like allowing one team in the NFL to do steroids and the other not. All the other teams can't.
100%. There's people will send me all the time, like amateur art contests. And, you got to enter this. You got to enter this. I'm like, I'm not going to enter that.
Yeah.
Dude, I do this for a living.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's like,
This is what you do.
Yeah.
How would that be fair to the
No.
weekend painter?
Yeah. You're blessed enough to be able to do it as a living.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
I wouldn't
I
feel right about
no,
winning that.
yeah.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
What do they get out of that?
Well, I smoked you guys. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, that's one of my things. We got off on
I'm
a
with
little
you.
tangent.
I'm with you on that, brother. I am.
And I hope that tournament people that run tournaments are looking at their participation rates, because they're falling because of stupid stuff like this.
Absolutely.
And
Why is a guy going to spend 50, 80, 100 grand in some of the big tournaments? That's what they're spending
yeah,
to fish against a professional team that they know they can't beat.
Right.
You know.
And I think you see that now. Some people are starting to see that, and like you're saying, a lot of the boat numbers might be going down in a lot of the other tournaments. One thing I do have to say, one thing that I really like, the way that Jimmy Johnson is run, because Todd and Val do a great job of creating the tournament as an experience, and they're giving back to the anglers, and I think a lot of the owners appreciate that, and they enjoy that as an event. You guys obviously are looking at it from a different level, from a competition standpoint. They're still bringing out heavy hitters in that tournament. It's a great sailfish tournament.
Yeah.
But I like the angle that they approach. Like, okay, if we're going to do that, right, then at least let's make this a great experience and a big hard rock thing for everybody, and everyone can enjoy themselves and have a great freaking time. You know what I mean? And that's what I respect about that, like, for sure.
Well, we talked,
but there's a lot of other tournaments that aren't offering that at the very least, but still trying to go down that road.
I started fishing tournaments in the 70s in offshore up in out of New Jersey and stuff, and got to go. But the one thing that I remember most, and Debbie and I talk about it all the time, is the camaraderie of being and getting to see the people that fish tournaments, and so much of that's gone because it's it's become a swing and dick deal,
right?
And it has, and so there's this, the whole visit with your buddy that you didn't get to see, and hey man, and you go fishing for a couple days against each other, but you're not trying to like kill each other. You're just fishing, man.
That's why the Cove tournament's one of my favorite tournaments.
It's like let's go have some fun.
Yeah.
Let's go have some drinks together. You get to visit for a little bit. You know, I mean, and that's
you're still going to try your ass off to beat everybody
for sure. And tournaments gave guys a reason to use their boat, right? But it also gave you a reason to go to a different town and go visit with your buddy. And then they came up to your tournament, and it was and I think a lot of that's gone. The camaraderie part of the togetherness and getting to see your buddies and hang out, and a lot of that's been kind of removed from the deal, and it was part of the coolest stuff. And it's that experience that you're talking about, like let's have something together, and it's something that we did in the Beach Haven tournament this summer. We made this effort to like have people together. We had this thing Marlin Fest where we made it an event and made it exciting and fun for everybody, the families, the wives, the kids that weren't fishing on the boats, and let's all do this. Let's do this together. Let's have a good time, and those are I don't know.
No, you're 100% right. I mean,
it is, right?
For sure.
And time is the currency we're short of stuff, right? So for a guy to take a week off and go fish a tournament and, leave his family, leave his business, leave everything, I mean, that's a huge commitment. Giant. And I think back in the day, like in the 70s and 80s, a guy could, he was running his company and we didn't have this whole global thing going on. And a guy could, like, I'm going to take this week off and I'm going to go pre-fish a day, and then I got to fish 3 days, and then I'll be back in the office on Sunday, or, or Monday morning I'll be ready to go. Now it's like, you gotta be there, Sunday night, you gotta fish 7 days, you gotta do all this stuff. It's hard, man. I mean, business keeps going, and luckily we have satellite phones and stuff like that. Guys can do it, but it's harder for the average guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
It really is hard.
It is.
And I think we've lost an element, but.
And most of the guys that are going to do that likely there are upper level executives or guys that own their own business.
For sure.
It's just like, and a guy in my standpoint, like I was up in New Jersey 12 days, right? I had talked to, my business partner Harris. I was talking to him. We went to lunch yesterday. And I was like, I don't think I've taken a full week off since we formed Connected by Water yet.
Wow.
Right? But then I think, well, I was gone for longer than I was gone for 12 days. And I was like, I don't think I've ever taken 12 days off in my entire career. Like, I really started thinking back. I'm like, when the hell did I ever do that? Never. That was like the longest vacation I've ever had. That's probably why I'm like, I came back so hungry and like, all right, let's podcast tonight. So we could do something.
I could tell you exactly last time I had that much time was our trip to Australia. I never take time off, and then that was, we went to fish the reef, and we went to New Zealand and everything, and Hawaii, and I started to shake. I'm like, I haven't worked. I haven't worked for a couple days, so holy shit. But I got on the boat and we went fishing with Laurie Wright, and everything was good. It was all good.
Yeah, there you go.
So I mean, it was cool. We went with a group and had a good time, but. I have that. I gotta work.
No, I'm with you.
I mean, I was up there climbing the walls for a little while after like the fifth day.
It's like, okay,
when you're used to going, it's hard to get that out of you.
Yeah,
I will say that in reality, I fish so I can hunt.
Right.
So every year, the end of October till Thanksgiving, I hunt for like 25 days.
Oh, you do?
In a row. But this isn't like a leisure vacation. I get up at 4 a.m.
Yes, take us through it, Rob.
I hunt all day.
I
hunt hard. I mean, it's as exhausting as any fishing day.
Right.
And I'm scouting. I'm looking at cameras.
Send elk meat.
And I bow hunt.
Send elk meat.
Exactly. Where's the venison, dude?
Right?
Yeah.
The voodoo daddy didn't show up with venison. I mean, come on.
I'm sorry.
He'd be
that was a
you
mistake.
had a good
I killed
season.
13
Yeah, you had a
deer
good
this
season.
year.
Well, I mean, just from like the looks of you, I think it's hard to believe that most of us would be able to keep up with you, Rob.
Well, I mean, that's another thing I do every morning. Not every morning, but 4 or 5 days a week. I start my day at the gym.
Right.
At 4:30, 5 o'clock. That's more. Of course, I like to be physically fit, but I do that more for my mental.
Okay. Yeah.
I end my day with a Papa's Pilar for my
The positive
mental.
ending.
And,
Well,
and
I don't
thank-
say- I'm
and
not
thank
saying-
God.
Sometimes
I'm not
too.
saying I don't end my day that way, but I start my way a different way.
It just helps, man.
Yeah.
The reason I brought up the at age 17 that master
The Met,
angler thing,
yes.
right? Because I'm always curious to find out, like, what's the moment it clicks for you that this is my living? Was it that? I mean, or was it like right around that time?
Great
Like, you know,
question.
That is a great question. And from age, I started fly fishing at 10.
10, yeah, which is phenomenal.
And I had a couple great mentors, Flip Pallett and Al Pfluger.
Mm-hmm. Can't go wrong there.
And it was a unique relationship with both of those.
At age 10,
Yes,
with them,
with them.
how'd that happen?
So I met Flip. This was before he guided, or
Because that's like some Malcolm Gladwell. kinda
it's
stuff,
pretty,
right?
It's pretty cool.
Who?
So Malcolm Gladwell is the author that wrote about the 10,000 hours and all these little things that have to happen in your life to make it. That's why that person.
I live
right?
by that rule.
Right.
So I knew who you're talking. I totally believe in the 10,000 hour rule.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally.
Me too.
So here's this 10-year-old kid. Flip Pallett at the time had an outdoor store called Wind River Rendezvous. And this was a store before its time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you had that store now, it would just kill it. But this was like a miniature outdoor world, but all high end, the most badass stuff in fly fishing, shotguns, anything cool outdoors, hunting or fishing. This store had
like the if you know you know kind of.
and it was in the falls.
Yep.
You know, in South Miami.
Miami.
That's how as Flip would say.
Miami.
Yes, he would. And it was the only store in Dade County that had fly tying material. Well, I was tying flies at 10 years old, so here
Tying flies or flying ties?
it depends on how many papas you have, how you say it. So I go in this store, and I knew who Flip was because I'd seen him on a couple of Outdoor Life episodes. You know,
Stuff that dreams are made of.
In the old days, there wasn't ESPN Outdoors. There wasn't all these,
Just
20
Worldwide World Sports.
There was
Yeah.
Flying Jose.
there
right?
was Outdoor Life.
Before that.
Oh no,
before
way,
you're
way,
before, yeah.
way
Oh,
before
you're talking
that.
about before that.
way
yeah.
before that.
Way before
Right.
that.
And there was American Sportsman.
American Sports.
Those were the two shows,
Yeah.
and that one was on ABC, one was on CBS or
Kirk
whatever.
Gowdy.
Yep.
Anyway, I had seen Flip on
Why,
a
sure.
couple episodes.
Thank you.
So I knew who Flip was, and I read everything. There was no internet then.
Mm-hmm.
Flip wrote in different magazines, and so I knew who he was. I knew his name was on the banner of this store, but I'd never seen Flip. I'd been in there like 5 or 6 times, never seen him. So I'm here. I'm kneeling down. It was like this big giant drawer thing that went from the ceiling to the floor, and you'd pull these drawers out, and it had all kinds of fly tying material in it. And I'm looking at these hackles. I'm kneeling down. I see these boots appear in front of my eyes, very close. And I look up, and it's Flip, and he's looking down at me, and he goes, "What are you doing? Here's this little kid."
Mm-hmm.
I go, "Well, actually, first of all, I'm immediately like shaking because I know who it is." I go, "Well, I'm looking for a grizzly hackle to tie some tarpon flies." And there's like silence for a minute. He's like taking this in. He goes, "Really?"
He thought you were there stealing stuff.
Yeah, well, he probably did.
Yeah.
And so that started a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly thereafter, he calls me. He asked me, we exchanged phone numbers, and he called me. He goes, "Sage," it's a fly rod builder,
Mm-hmm.
and they had just come out with the first graphite fly rods. Before that, it was lamy glass and all these other different materials. He goes, "They sent me a 9 and a 12 weight. Would you like to come meet me at the store, and we'll go cast them?"
Mm-hmm.
And this was a time when the falls was first built. There was like a vacant lot. Now there's like there's nothing that's not concrete.
There isn't a vacant lot in all of Dade
There's
County.
nothing that's not concrete.
Right.
Within
no
a
impervious
10
surfaces
Yeah.
there anywhere
There's
anymore.
no
right? Yeah.
impervious surface.
At the time, there was this open lot. So I'm all excited that the guy just called me. Much
Or all
less
impervious surfaces. Yeah.
So a couple days later, I go to the store and we go outside and we cast these and I'm like, I'm so excited. I'm going to get a fly casting lesson from Flip Pallet. So he cast the 9 weight and then cast the 12 weight. And then he handed me the 9 weight and I'm casting. Then we change. I cast the 12 weight. And he's not saying anything. And I'm waiting, for what I'm doing wrong.
Right, the judgment. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I go,
The ruling.
and nothing's coming. So I'm like, maybe he wants me to ask him. Maybe he doesn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I go, what am I doing wrong? He goes, not a damn thing. Let's go back in the store.
Fantastic.
So that was the beginning of a real relationship. And we started fishing
10?
together. Yes. And started fishing together and just hanging out. And the unique thing was there's a 25-year difference
Uh-huh.
in age. And though there was a mentorship for a while, it was never like, it was just weird. It was almost like we were brothers. I was just his younger brother. Flip and I became very close. And when I started guiding, we became extremely close. And he was guiding at the time as well. This was before the Walker's Chronicles started. Every day we had off, pretty much, we were in the Everglades in airboats because we both loved to hunt. Flip was the first guy to take me to Texas, introduced me to bow hunting, introduced me to turkey hunting and deer hunting and all these things that now I've passed on to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
That has become a way of life for me, and I owe him so much for that. Al Pfluger was the first guy to show me how to use a jig.
Mm-hmm.
This guy could fish with a jig and catch anything on a plug rod or a spinning rod. And there's an art to that. Anybody that's a good
100%.
jig fisherman, and he taught me so much about fishing at a young age. I didn't learn a tremendous amount of fishing knowledge from Flip.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a lot of time together doing it together. I learned a ton of hunting knowledge from Flip about walking through the woods and reading game trails and understanding movement of animals and things like that, which I still use today when I hunt. But Pfluger taught me. That guy was one of the best all-around fishermen I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It wasn't always pretty, but he got it done. It was like he wasn't the prettiest fly caster I ever saw, but he would catch the shit out of fish on a fly rod.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times too, and correct me if I'm wrong because you guys would know better than me, but with fishing, it just time is just such a teacher.
No doubt.
More than just you say, oh, do this, do that, do that.
Time
and experience
the
is
desire,
such is your teacher.
The desire to learn. But there's you hear that that guy's fishy.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is an element of fishiness to people that is not learnable.
I know a lot of fishy people.
It's only because they don't bathe.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Their motives are very fishy.
Yeah.
Their motives are very fishy.
No, but you know what I'm saying.
I do. Fishy guys.
There are guys that just have a feel for it. Like they look at an edge.
Ray's fishy. Art Sapp.
Arts like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. There are guys that
Skip
just feel it.
You know,
And that's something that I don't think you can
Mark
learn.
Garnsey, Danny Bear, Charles Perry. The list goes on
Yeah,
and on and on.
yeah. That's something
And,
you have
you
or you
know.
don't. And that's just like an NFL quarterback. You either have that. There's a bunch of great quarterbacks in the world, but there's only 30 that make it to the NFL each year.
Yep.
And
And only about half of that excel at it.
And those are the guys that have a gift that you can't teach.
12 of them.
12 of them, right. Yeah. It's funny because, talking about art, we were fishing Jimmy Johnson last year, and I was actually on the boat with Singularis with Van Dell, and I'm up in the tower. And then we're all up in Jupiter. And then all of a sudden Art turns around. It's about noon, starts heading south, and I swear the entire fleet just must have gone,
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
because he's going south.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
Definitely.
that's how it goes when, you know what I mean? You feel it.
You get these senses and you got to, and that's another thing. When you have that, you have to understand that you got to go with it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not second guess
All
yourself.
in. You got to go all
Yeah,
in.
you
gotta
can't
Yeah.
second in. And,
Yeah.
somebody that's good realizes that after a while. And I've had so many clients, Carlos, who's a good friend of
Mhm.
client and so forth of Carl's and I,
Mr. Duncan owns the
Mr. Duncan, he runs.
owns the Serenita that I take care of.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
everything. He's a
And-
great friend and he's a great fisherman. I mean,
He is.
he's a unbelievable caster. Good, I happen to be in Wyoming with him. We not this summer, and I'm watching him cast little. I couldn't even hardly see the hook,
Right.
and he's like,
Yeah.
unbelievable. And he fishes with Rob. They've won tournaments through
He's
stuff.
doing those
Won a lot
low
of
creek
tournaments.
snaps and all
10
that.
and 2,
Like,
baby. 10 and
Yeah,
2.
like he's and he's into it, right? He's totally focused. And when he gets on the boat, totally focused, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Mhm.
he loves to fish. He just loves it, and it's so great. It's, and yeah, Leslie too. I mean, Leslie's casting. His wife Leslie is. I told you, I said, holy crow, man. I mean, like she fishes with Rob. She's on the front of his boat all the time. So we're in Wyoming. It's blowing, and we're at this river that runs through the deal, and she's casting like from here to the other side of Atlantic Boulevard, as far as I'm concerned, and like nailing it into the pond. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
and again, throwing something this big,
Yeah.
and like it's just like. And she's getting it out there, and I'm going, "Holy moly, man!" I mean, like really.
That's
good.
the art.
Where were we? Where were we going with it?
I don't know,
I
but-
started.
We
I
were
don't know.
talking about Flip and Al and everything like that.
Well, we
but-
flipped the subject.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
flipped the subject.
I forgot where
Listen,
we were going.
but I do want to bring up a couple things about Flip. Flip's one of my white whales, and I'd love to have him on the show one day. I know it's a difficult task because he keeps his profile low these days, but that would be just amazingly beautiful. But I do remember as a kid, just watching him on TV all the time.
Did you see him and me on it? Because we were on it.
Boy, the words! I just loved how he would just end his show with his writing and just like
Yes.
like this is oratory and
Yeah.
everything, and just the words would
and
just
that- what's
fall
cool?
and flow out of his mouth like sunshine on a river.
Very
Yeah.
expressive, but that's like how
I was going to say that's Flip.
Yeah.
yeah, like
I mean, if you spend any time with Flip and just listen,
Yeah.
that's what comes out. I mean,
Mhm.
that isn't like made up bullshit for
Yeah.
the TV
Not at
show.
all.
I mean, that's Flip.
Yeah.
And the
We
guy's very deep. He goes through life. I always used to make fun of him, but now I understand it. We would walk through the woods and take an hour to go 200 yards.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that we would see and notice in that 200 yards, if you'd have just walked through there, you'd have missed all of it. And Flip has always been a guy that prided himself on going through life slowly and taking it in at his own pace.
Mm-hmm.
And that's,
There's a beauty to that.
no, man, it's special. And not a lot of people have the patience for that.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
taught me patience, fishing.
we spent a bunch of days in Key West. We were designing a boat
Mm-hmm.
and or redesigning, I should say, a boat. Anyway, we were spending these days in Key West, and Flip. We would go down there and we're meeting with Ralph Delph, and we're meeting with all the guides, and we're going to design this boat, and Flip broke everything that we talked about into these little pieces of knowledge, and when we ended up building a boat that was basically Flip and us, but we called it the Lefty Cray edition. It was a 20 Seacraft hull with the deal. We had an integrated coffin box in it, and we made this fly fishing boat and everything. It was a little too heavy of a build when they tried to execute it, but the idea and the concept is now something that you see on every boat.
Yeah.
And that was something that we took this time to go down there and talk to guides. We spent time with Jose. We spent time with Ralph Duff and everything. And Flip took all these nuggets and brought it down, and we would sit there at night and talk about, okay, how are we going to, how can we make the coolest, fishing boat? We just know, because all these boats have all this shit on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and we just wanted a fish boat. And that's when we learned about, I saw these, pop-up cleats and pop-up nav lights and everything. And everybody, they're too expensive. You can't put them on a boat. And I was like, no, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
We're doing it because it gets in the way, and
Yep.
it needs to be integrated. And I took a lot of crap for it, and now it's standard,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, now
And-
every boat
and-
has that.
And we like held our ground, and we were like, no, we have to have it. You remember?
Yeah.
That's,
We
I
were-
think, that listening to your voice thing, just going with it, right?
Yeah.
It was, but Flip has a unique way of getting his point across to make
For
things
sure.
like that happen. And
Well, he backs it up with rationalization.
yeah,
That is only earned
Yeah.
like the 10,000 hour rule
Right. Yeah.
of
Yep.
years of
There you go.
experience in
Right.
doing it.
and this makes sense. I mean, look at the whip ray skiff. I mean, Flip and Hal changed the flats
that
fishing
changed
business.
Mhm.
the industry.
Totally changed the industry and the flats business, and and I got to go in and do that, and got to sell a lot of those boats for a couple of years, and I had one behind my truck, and I would pull up anywhere, and I'd go. It was insane, and
Mhm.
I took, as took those boats everywhere, and Rob and I started working together. I was at Seacraft and Silver King, and Rob was one of the first
Love
guys.
those
I'm
20 Seacrafts.
like, man, I gotta get. Well, that was the Lefty Cray edition. It was the
Love that
20.
boat.
That was
Yep.
my dad's 20 Seacraft 1969 hull that we took apart
Mhm.
because it was the only one that we knew that hadn't been messed with, and
The original.
the original.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We disassembled it, turned around, and made a mold off of it, and unfortunately, it didn't get built as light as it should have been,
Right.
and so it didn't perform the same way that my dad's that I
It's
grew
still
up on
pretty
fishing.
badass
It
boat,
was a
though.
badass little boat.
Yeah.
And but I'd pull into a place with that skiff behind my truck, and like people would walk up and look, and I took it up to Charles. I'd sell them.
Yeah.
It's like, it was crazy, and I don't know. We had a lot of fun building boats and talking about boats and everything, but that little detail stuff is what I always loved about Flip, and I still do. I mean, he's dialed in, man. He knows.
That he is.
I figured out the sidetrack, by the way. So there was the question that I asked you about being 17 and did
Yes.
it all change
The
then?
moment.
And then we got off on a flip
The
pallet
moment.
tangent, right? The moment.
The moment.
Right.
So
Because I want, because the thing is, it's like, I've already asked him 1,000 times about what makes him tick and old things like that, but I'm kind of trying to get underneath the skin of you, and because that's really what I want to get down to. We always say this is a fishing show that's not about fishing, right? We want to talk about the people
Right.
behind it, and what's that moment
So-
for you?
when I love to fish at a very young age. My grandfather was a big fisherman. He wasn't a professional fisherman. Him and my grandmother loved to fish.
Mm-hmm.
My dad fished a little bit. My family weren't, they weren't big fishermen, but my grandfather was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would go fishing with my grandfather. And then my dad, I'm talking about 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was young. The unique thing, I take kids fishing all the time, so do you, Carl.
Yep.
Most kids that are under 15 don't have patience. Like, they got to be bending the rod. Or they're like, okay, this is boring,
Chum bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever.
Yep.
I, for some reason, and I can't tell you why, I wasn't that way. I just loved the whole experience of fishing, casting, learning how, as soon as I started to learn how to cast, I wanted to know how to cast better.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to learn how to cast further. It went from, catching fish on bait, bass, in fresh
Mhm.
water, to, okay, how do I catch these things? I see these guys on, these bass pros there, you got plastic worms. I want to learn how to do that.
You had an advantage though. You had 12 months of it.
No, being a South Florida native for sure.
At the end of October, we were kind of done, bass fishing, and the decoys came out, and we went hunting.
Right.
And then, in January, the decoys went away, and we had like 2 months. What are you going to do?
'Cause it's freezing.
We're going to go shovel some snow and make a little bit of money and everything.
Yeah.
And then, April came and was like, all right, we might be able to catch a weak fish, and there's bluefish, the little snapper blues are coming up the bay. Let's go.
Mhm.
And and casting, as you said, and you learn, and then you learn like I got to put it there, but I had like months of I couldn't do it because where I lived, and I think that takes a lot of kids out of it.
Oh, for sure.
It's
Yeah, then they don't come back for next season.
exactly.
And,
It's like, oh man, they get jacked up about it, and they're doing it, and then the next thing things get in the way, and then they lose it, and that's the beauty of Florida, man. You can have 12 months a year, you can fish, and
and you don't have to ride out 60 miles and for the offshore stuff, and so there's a good balance of doing it quickly. I mean, how many places can you live in where you sailfish, and then you can go inshore and get snook and tarpon, and then if you wanted to, just go catch a bass, but in the back behind your house at the end of the day, and you're done.
Well, how lucky was I to be able to be in New Jersey and be able to get the ride 60 miles offshore?
Yeah,
because my dad fished with these guys, and I got to tag along, ride along, and then learned enough to be able to go do it, and then I got to do it for work,
Mm-hmm.
and
Those are some big tuna you're pulling in there.
Fishing
Those
canyons
canyons.
out
it's
there.
like crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you get not every kid gets that shot.
No.
I was so lucky. To be able to. That's a lot of fuel.
Yeah.
For
You know?
sure. Oh yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of expense.
A lot of fuel, a lot of
And you
time.
gotta have the boat.
Yep.
Like
The experience at a young age fishing for me quickly turned from the desire to catch fish
Mm-hmm.
to learn about the fish, especially when I started saltwater fishing.
Mm-hmm.
that's
I-
why he
I-
lost his hair.
Yes,
That's
I
because
wanted
he's,
to catch them.
Right.
But once I caught a few, I was satisfied with that. I want to learn where these things live.
Mm-hmm.
And at 15, we found this old Hughes bone fisher. First year they built them, 1970, behind this guy's house. Thing
which was actually a ski boat, if I'm not.
That's what it started as.
It started as
the
a ski
hull was
boat.
a ski boat. Yeah.
Wasn't
Bob
made for the
Hughes-
flats.
Bob
It-
Hughes made the original hull as a ski
As a
boat
ski
and turned
boat.
it into
Really?
a flats boat.
Absolutely.
Really.
But
No,
anyway-
just as a sidebar too, I'm gonna bring Chrissy on the show pretty soon too. Dude, Chrissy Hughes.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna bring her.
You
She's
should.
she's
She-
coming
she
on the
has
show
a-
soon. I
Cool.
got her lined
She
up
has a
coming up
bu- yeah,
soon.
she has a bunch.
Yeah,
of-
I'm just really. I just want to get
That's
over
great.
into all
No,
that
she,
with her.
she could tell
Yeah.
you a lot of things. I've known Chrissy since she was
Yeah,
a little
she's
kid.
awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, it quickly became a passion for me to learn about fishing. And once I got that boat, I had friends that were old enough to drive.
Mhm.
It was because I was fishing with Flip and fishing with Fluger, but they were taking me to these places.
Yeah.
I wanted to start figuring this stuff out on my own. And it didn't take long before, I was catching bonefish and permit and redfish and snook and those things. But my dad would drop me off at Matheson Hammock on his way to work when in summertime. Don't go offshore.
Mhm.
He'd always, do not go. This is before cell phones or any of that
Right.
stuff. Well, I hadn't done that.
Mhm.
What was I doing?
All right.
I'd run right past Fowey Light, and I'm seeing these guys sail fishing, and I'd catch some blue runners and throw them in.
As soon as Dad tells you, no, that's
Yeah.
where the good shit is.
Yeah,
I'm going there.
right.
I know that
I was
story.
catching blue runners and putting
Yeah.
them in
Yeah.
the bait well and bump trolling,
Yeah.
blue runners
Yep.
and catching
Yeah.
sailfish, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna figure this shit out.
Yeah. Mine was saying, don't go past the top of the Northern Goose Bar. Okay,
So-
I won't.
Once I started doing that, then I started being familiar with the Met tournament.
Mhm.
Going back to where we started, and I met a guy. My mom and dad owned a Chevron station on US 1 and
Oh, they did?
124th Street.
Okay.
So right by the falls.
Yep.
And it was old school, and was for a long time.
They washed your windows.
Yeah, you
check
pulled up
your
to
oil.
get gas, and they'd wash your windows, check your oil, check your tire pressure while they're pumping your gas. And people would move, and it was full mechanic shop too.
Do motors
Mhm.
still have oil in them? Does anyone ever
Yeah.
had any?
Yeah, I don't-
Did
Oh,
you ever
jeez.
race?
I think they all run around sunshine now, right?
Jesus.
Anyway,
Sunshine
a
and
guy named
rainbows.
John Still.
Mhm.
There's only two people in the Met Hall of Fame. John Still was a guy that was the first inductee into the Met Hall of Fame by catching 12 particular species of fish
Mhm.
that were certain weights from inshore to offshore to all different kinds of tackle. In a 62-year tournament, only two guys accomplished that.
Mhm.
And he was the first guy to do it. The other guy was Bob Rich, and not taking anything away from Bob Rich because he did catch the fish, but he paid a lot of guides a lot of money to do
Mhm.
that, and John did it on his own.
Gotcha.
So I'm just separating that a little bit
Sure.
because
As you should.
because John figured all that stuff out and figured out a way to catch those
That's a
fish.
good distinction to make. I mean, because that does matter.
And again, Bob caught the
Right,
fish.
he
and
He
caught-
did it. He
he
did it.
did
He
it,
did it.
and,
We got
and,
that.
And,
Yep.
and still, only two
Well,
guys have done it. A lot of
Mhm.
people could have bought that
Mhm.
that didn't.
There's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways to get to the end goal, and
Right.
But
Regardless.
for only two guys in 62 years,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, John and I met and we started fishing together a little bit. And he goes, he kind of said, you should fish for the master angler. I go, John, one, I'm in school still, and I was full blown sports. I was a baseball player, football player, and a lot of that takes a lot of time
Mhm.
after school and so forth. And I did love to fish.
Right.
And every weekend day that I wasn't playing sports or in school, I was fishing. He goes, if you'll make the time, I'll make the time to spend time with you. And because he had a 25 contender. At that time, that was the biggest
Right.
offshore boat made. There weren't all these crazy sizes of boats.
Mako 25 was the first, though.
Yeah, you're right.
Mako 25 was
But
the
I'm
first.
talking about like real badass.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
Well, in its time, the Mako 25 was supposedly the badass, even though it rode a little hard.
It was.
That's all right. Listen, Mako's
the 23C
before the Switch. That was a great boat
for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, so John and I fished the Met. I probably caught or fished more days without John.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of days by myself on the flats, just poling myself.
Mm-hmm.
In that 1970 use. But a lot of the offshore stuff because John had the boat. I did with John, but I missed my senior year of high school. I missed 70 days of school.
You delinquent.
And they were not. I had this full ride.
Slacker.
I had this full ride to University of Tennessee on a baseball scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
About 2 weeks before my graduation of high school, the principal calls me in and says, "You're not going to graduate." I had all B's and, passing grades. Why am I not going to graduate? You have 70 absences.
Mm-hmm.
I was fishing. You missed school to go fishing? Well, a week before graduation, the Met did their announcement that I had won the Master Angler and the youngest guy to ever do that in the tournament's history. And my mom and dad let the school know this is what he did to do this. So they let me graduate because
nice.
they realized that I wasn't just
skipping class.
I was actually doing something that was kind of
I couldn't do that. Both my mom and dad were teachers at the school I went to, so it was out of the question.
Well, I can tell you
Although
this.
I did take days off with my dad to go duck hunting.
I can tell you this. When my mom and dad heard that I had 70 absences, it was not a good week at home.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
Yeah, there was only 20 they knew of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but then you get to show them the button. There you go. Look at that.
That's right. I got the button.
Back then, it was the jacket.
Oh,
it was they gave me a jacket, and I still have the jacket.
Wow.
It doesn't fit anymore, but I still got the jacket.
What are you a little puffed up?
If you had the jacket, you were big shit.
Cut the sleeves off, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
For a short time,
full scholarship to Tennessee for baseball.
Yeah,
you're a mega man.
It was short ended,
Yeah, I think
he
you made the right
speak
decision.
Tennessean.
No, it wasn't that. Rotator cuffs. I had multiple.
So
you actually.
I went to Tennessee.
Oh, you did go.
There's a back
okay.
injury,
I played.
I believe.
One thing you got to know about Four Dice.
Tell me.
When you're fishing with Four Dice, if he's not bleeding, you're not fishing.
It's true.
Really?
So, he's the most injury prone guy. I mean, I promise. He bled yesterday. There was somebody bled today, and not like fish blood, but his blood.
Right.
This guy cuts himself, breaks himself, hurts himself. Those shit. He's had like 14 elbow surgeries.
17 surgeries.
Really?
Not little surgeries, like major. Yeah. Spinal fusion.
He has a love affair with
9
his
shoulder surgeries.
Doctor.
Pec. I detached a pec one time. That was bad. That was one of the worst.
When you detach your pectoral fin, you
Those
swim
poor
like
fish.
this.
Yeah.
You just have no balance.
It doesn't.
You know what today was for me here? So Mike was on the phone when Mike called in, right? And, he's like, oh, D hit it out of the park today or whatever like that. You know what today was for me? Because it was all unplanned and just kind of organically happened. Today is one of those days where you just, you go out fishing by yourself and it's after work and you just want to wet a line for like an hour and you just nail the big one.
Yeah.
All by yourself. And that's what I did today.
Oh, thank you,
with
brother.
you two.
Thank you for having us, man.
I really, really
Skull.
No doubt. I
Here's to you,
thoroughly
brother.
enjoyed this.
Here's to
I mean,
you.
Carl,
Thank
I
you.
love you like a brother. I mean,
Amen, man.
And
So I
it's
feel the
just,
same way.
and Rob, this has truly been a treat.
Thank you.
You
For
laid,
me as
you
well.
laid it down for us today, and I appreciate that. Thank you
thanks for
so
having
much. I want to give a special shout out. She served us drinks all day today, and we kind of did a lot of talking. So we
we didn't get Carlene in much, and you're usually a big part of the show, which everyone looks forward to. I know I do.
Yeah, and I want to just just thank you for just all the episodes that you come in for, but not only does she pour a great drink, but she sells a great chair.
Amen.
The blue water chairs,
Blue water
and
chairs.
the rocket launchers and everything she does over there, and she's a yacht broker, and lay down your contact if how is anyone going to get in touch with you or if they need to order
Kickasscarlene.com.
It's pretty simple. Carlene at Blue Water Chairs. They can call you directly for my phone number.
That's true.
Or I can
Yep.
give it to you, or
Yeah.
All right.
business cards on the table. But if you just call Blue Water and ask for me, I'll
And
be able
great
to take care of
chairs,
you.
great rocket launchers, and the furniture is
Teak
incredible.
tables,
Teak
anything.
tables. Yeah, they do
Yeah.
great work. I've done a lot of work with Blue Water over the years.
Yep.
Tommy's a great guy, and now that Carlene's there, it's even better.
5
Yeah.
years now.
Yeah,
great.
and then
Going on
you know,
5
and then
years.
you get to talk to Carlene, which is probably reward enough. Right?
Reward.
So,
Amen.
and if you're in the market for a new truck, Jeep.
Jeep.
Or family vehicle, give our buddies at Joey Cardi Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram a call. They will hook you up. Actually, don't call Joey because he's probably out fishing on the Merritt Surreal
He is fishing with
with
Skip
our
Dana.
beloved Captain Skip
Yep.
Dana. But call Dean and tell him that you're a friend of the show and he'll hook you up. I don't want to make promises, but I think if you do say that, you might get a better price than most people do.
As you would.
Um,
And by the way, the Jeep Mojave pickup is a badass little truck.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we wrote here.
That's what we came here in.
really?
I have a
awesome.
Jeep. We have a Jeep Mojave pickup. It's our beach buggy that we use. And,
Oh, I got to check that thing
it's
out.
so cool.
It's
Yeah,
badass.
nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's
And,
really nice.
It's just a neat little buggy. It's fun. It's fun to drive, and we got it. Yeah,
You like it?
yeah. I love it.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, here you go. Here you go. I want to. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention our family members at Papa's Pilar Rum.
Amen.
Right. Everyone heard from
Steve, Mike,
earlier, and
thank you,
Steve and
guys.
Mike. I mean, come on, and Johnny.
Yep.
You guys are running the beautiful operation there,
The best.
and I do want to say that it's been an honor and a pleasure, and we're happy to be rolling through 2022 with Papa's Pilar as well. So,
Amen.
so we're very happy about that continued relationship with them, and they're just it's family. So.
Yep. Great folks.
I want to give a shout out to CV Boats. If you're looking for a boat,
They build
fine vessel on the water. But
they build a
also,
good
if you're looking
product.
for some CV apparel, we did design their entire line, and you can go to shop.cvboats.com, pick up something from the Friel collection, and we'd be happy to serve you. So, are we leaving anything out, guys? I think we
Well,
got
one
it.
thing.
We got all-
One
oh yeah,
thing.
yeah. Please do.
You and I, you
Yes.
need to come fish with me someday.
God bless you.
I'm going to take you somewhere in the Everglades, and you're going to see something that you think is really cool.
and you'll
and-
paint
You
it.
you're
sure
gonna
do
paint it.
have a pretty mouth.
Oh, that is
That
so
is
funny.
perfect.
That is so funny.
love her.
That is so
is so
perfect. I'm going
That's
to
why
take
we
you
love her.
someplace
No.
she's never been before.
You keep running your mouth there, Carla Jean. I'm going to take you in the back room and screw you.
I love that woman. I really do.
That's the best.
Yes.
You got to
But
keep
I'd
it
love to
light.
do that,
You got to
man.
keep
Oh,
it
thank
right.
you, Rob. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you have an interest in doing that,
If I have an interest,
it'd be. I would love to just
I-
see you
Little bit.
paint something that
Little
that I see every day. you
that'd
know?
be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Your ego, it's not your amigo.
No bueno.
No.
Right?
Sir.
Always do your best, and at the end of the day, just let God do the rest. And do not ever forget that no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we're all connected by water.
And Papa's Pilar.
And Papa's Pilar.
Never be a spectator.
Ever.
Cheers, boys.